relationships between the Philippines and Italy. Part of its mission is to strengthen the business community and cooperation across the Philippines and Southeast Asia. Besides his responsibilities at the Chamber, which he assumed in 2016, Mr. Ziller is also the co-founder and managing director of the Infrastructure and Construction Focus Group. He has worked in various management roles for several multinational corporations and has served as managing director of a leading property brokerage firm based in Dubai and Italy, and was the chairman of a real estate investment fund from Dubai. Our guest is not new to the Philippines. He moved here in 2011 when he served as a director for corporate affairs of the Italpinas Development Corporation. We'll ask him about the Chamber's work to bring the Philippines and Italy closer together. Italy is an important part in the Philippines. Bilateral trade between the two countries was at 1.09 billion euros as of 2019. Italy hosts 165,000 Filipino migrant workers, and like the firm that our guest represents, there are many Italian investors here. We'll ask Mr. Ziller, what opportunities does the Chamber member see in the Philippines, and what can be done to strengthen its partnership with Italy? Mr. Lorens Ziller, thank you for making time for Business and Politics, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, you know, I have known you for a while, so if you don't mind, I'd just like to call you Lorens.
Yes, of course.
So tell us about the Italian Chamber, because you know, most people would probably recognize that there's a very big, very active European Chamber of Commerce, but you guys have been around for a while, and we were talking before the show, you have around 100 members in your chamber. So
Yes.
why are they here?
Well, first of all, let's debunk that myth of Europe, because if you look at Europe, Europe is very fragmented. So we have a lot of countries. So we have Spain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland as main countries. Now, maybe geographically, even Britain would be part of it. Now, politically, now with Brexit, not anymore.
Sure.
So Italians really identify with the Italian Chamber of Commerce, not with the European one.
Okay.
To say or to underline how fragmented it is. It's not like the United States or other big or Russia, for example.
Right.
There is a lot of Italians here. I think few went back during the pandemic.
Okay.
Generally, people identify Italy like pizza, pasta, so
That's
food and beverage, wine, cars with Ferrari, Lamborghini, or motorbikes with Piaggio, the Vespa, or Ducati, for example.
Right.
Or fashion, we have a lot of brands in fashion as well. But of course, Italy is much more than that. Italy is one of the biggest producers of machinery, for example, to manufacturing machineries, to produce, for example, steel. We had Steel Asia buy a whole line of Danieli just recently, which underlines the excellence that Italy has in various sectors. Then we have a lot of small investors that come to the Philippines to open resorts or restaurants. We have companies who are in the software sector or even services, let's call it like that. Logistics. Several Italian companies are here with their fridges, industrial fridges, so serving the cold chain. So there is a big variety of companies and activities which Italians do in the Philippines.
Would you say that the Philippines is in the radar of Italians looking around the world for economic opportunities? Because, you know, in this region, China, of course, is practically next door to the Philippines. And there are many other countries in the region that are doing well in attracting foreign investors, you know, Singapore being one of them. How far or how close are we from, I guess, the mainstream, thought of Italian businessmen?
Yeah, let's say like that. The ASEAN in general has actually caught the eye of major economies.
I see.
And so we see a very big interest from Europe in general and also from Italy towards ASEAN.
Okay.
Now we know that
That's interesting.
classically or typically the investment hubs here in the region are Hong Kong and Singapore.
Right.
And those companies who have already been here for a while out of Hong Kong or Singapore, they see the Philippines as just an added market, an add-on market.
I see.
And those who have not been here are definitely interested to come now to this region because of the macroeconomic data that this region is showing. We are probably going to have the highest growth worldwide.
Yeah.
And with a very low population in general, which guarantees this growth long term, makes it sustainable.
Right.
That's why more and more companies are looking at establishing themselves in the ASEAN.
That's interesting. I said in the introduction that there are about 165,000 Filipinos in Italy, most of them, of course, domestic helpers.
Yeah.
I believe the number is probably double on that if you take into account the undocumented workers. But the question is, how do they represent the Philippines? Does that factor into maybe some Italians being curious about the Philippines? Because one of the things I've noticed when I've been to Italy is how different the Italians treat the Filipino workers there versus how Filipinos are treated, say, in the Middle East. They're very close. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I see a lot of similarities in the Filipino character and the Italian character. We have such, a similar joy of life. We're both very gregarious. We like food. We like, friends. And I was wondering, does that somehow make Italians curious about the country where those workers come from? And is that an advantage of the Philippines?
Okay, there is two things that I have to say. They did, I can't remember which university, they tried to establish which foreigners in Italy fit in the easiest.
Okay.
And they established that Filipinos are the ones who fit in the easiest into the Italian society. Now, this has the following reasons. So now that's the second point.
Okay.
If you analyze history, and I discovered that in a most curious way, I tell you that. I went to Naga City and I sat in one of those typical city restaurants.
Okay.
And so when I was looking at the menu, I saw one dish which was crispy tuna with sweet and sour onion. And I was staring at it. I said, that cannot be. This is the typical city dish of Palermo in Sicily.
Really? Wow.
So I started researching. And so what I found out is that during the time the so-called Spanish came here to the Philippines, half of Italy, which was called the Reign of the Two Sicilies, was under the flag of Spain.
I see.
So, of course, the majority of the Jesuits, the Dominicans, and the other congregations, most of them were Italians. And they brought here to the Philippines their way of life, their culinary taste,
that's so interesting.
Their culture, so to say. And that's why the south of Italy is very similar to the Philippines. And so if you bring an Italian here, especially from the south, they will tell you they feel at home immediately.
Well, I did notice that Italians drive the same way as Filipinos drive.
Yeah, in the south they do.
But I'm curious, what brought you here? I mean, I noticed from your background that you work in construction, but you've been in other industries as well. But what's your journey like?
Yeah, I was actually, by that time, living in Dubai.
Right.
That was now post the economic crisis of 2008.
Okay.
And I was also the managing director in the Middle East for the branding arm of Formitalia Luxury Group.
Okay.
So basically, I was representing Tonino Lamborghini Casa. And we were trying to brand real estate towers. In fact, we had signed with a tower complex in Dubai.
Okay.
And by that time, I heard that in the Philippines, there were several branded towers coming up, like the Trump Tower, Milano by Versace, and some others.
Right.
And so I came here to meet this developer who was actually launching this project.
Okay.
And I had several meetings, and then I was asked if I can stay a week or 10 days longer because he had a business trip. And so I decided to stay. I started traveling around the Philippines, and I fell in love. And I postponed then for 3 weeks, 3 months, and now it's 13 years that I'm here.
Oh, wow.
And with the conviction that this is going to be my home for the rest of my life.
Was that 2011, or were you traveling here before and then you settled for good in 2011?
2011. Yes,
2011.
That was in 2011.
What were you doing in Naga, for all places?
I think that was, I went to the marketing congress or something like that.
I see,
and
okay.
so I came across this restaurant, and of course my culinary curiosity as Italian is always very much alive.
Right.
And that's...
Are you from Palermo, or what part of Italy you're from?
No, I'm actually from the opposite side of Italy, from the very north.
Okay.
Place called South Tyrol. We speak German. In fact, my surname reveals that I'm half Italian, half German.
Okay.
And
it's like the fashion capital of Italy.
That's in Milan.
That's Milan.
Yes.
Okay.
So where I come from, it's where you see the Dolomites, the mountains, where you go skiing. And most of the people don't consider themselves actually as Italians, but as South Tyroleans, with an Italian passport, of course.
Right. Did you have any Filipino friends in Italy? Were you exposed to anything Filipino at all? Or?
In Dubai. In Dubai, being
in Dubai,
there,
there's so many. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe more than half a million.
Half of the population, I think, is
Filipinos.
Yeah.
All of our staff there, I think there were 10 of them. They were all Filipinos. So that's where I got to know actually a little bit of the Philippines. But of course, I didn't know what to expect before I took that flight.
No, but something that I was curious about, you mentioned how Italians that come here, they see things that are familiar with the cuisine and with the people. But I'm always amazed also at how assimilated the Filipinos are in Italy. They seem to pick up the language well. I mean, I don't speak Italian, but it sounds as if they get along fairly well. And it's just curious how the relationships are, even between employer and employee. It's quite different. I mean, it's almost as if they're family. I don't know if that's the general, the typical relationship, or if I'm just seeing something that's different. What would you say?
Well, we are. Italy is a Catholic country, right? So,
another common thing. Yeah.
And as for myself, having lived in various countries in the world, you can really see the difference among people, how they treat themselves, how they talk to each other, how they grow up their families. And so that similarity with the Philippines and with Filipinos is very clear. That's why when the Filipino encounters the Italian, they feel that they belong somehow.
That's very interesting. Lorens, we'll just have to take a quick break.
Sure.
We'll be right back. You're watching Business and Politics. We're talking to Lorens Ziller of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines.